The Trump Department of Justice just got caught red-handed trying to scrub the internet of the most damaging document in the Epstein release. We're talking about the file number EFTA 01660679. Remember that number because yesterday that file was public. Today, if you go to a DOJ website, it is gone and deleted. And when you read what was in that file, actually, you know exactly why they panicked. This isn't just about flight logs anymore. This isn't just about who was at a party or whatever. This document describes in sickening details a ritual called Calendar Girls. It describes that Donald Trump allegedly auctioning off children to Jeffrey Epstein. It describes him physically measuring them, and this is happening while the administration is trying to tell us there's nothing to see there. This is after weeks of them gaslighting us. This is after weeks of them saying the files absolve him, and now the moment of a document surfaces that corroborates that victims have been saying for decades. The DOJ pulls the plug. They didn't think we would save the receipts. They didn't think independent media would screenshot the evidence before they could hit the delete button. But we did, for sure. And we are going to read every single word of it today because the American people deserve to know why their government is engaging in a cover up in real time. Let's look at the document that Ed Christenstein and others have been circulating before it was wiped. It alleges that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, held parties at Mar-a-Lago called Calendar Girls. Jeffrey Epstein would bring the children in and Trump would auction them off. Read that again. Auction them off? Rated them? It's kind of weird now. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but it's just president's private club, I guess. And instead of investigating this, instead of saying, my God, we need to get to the bottom of this, the Trump DOJ deleted the file. Why delete if it's fake? I mean, that's the question you have to ask. If this was just a crazy fabrication, you leave it up, you debunk it. You say this is false, but you don't delete it unless you're terrified of what it reveals. And that is the key here. They're not afraid of the text. They're afraid of the corroboration because this isn't the first time we heard about calendar girls. This isn't the first time we've heard about these specific parties. The patterns match, the locations match, and the behavior matches everything we know about Jeffrey Epstein and his recruiters operated. They used modeling competitions, they used calendar girls, contests as a front to funnel victims into their network. And now we have a document placing Donald Trump at the center of the auction block. Now the mega spin machine is already working overtime. They're going to say, oh, this is just a random file. Anyone could have written that. But here's where they run into a brick wall. The New York Times reported this on 2016. Take a look at this article from the New York Times way back before Trump was even elected. It confirms that in 1992 there was indeed a calendar girl competition organized at Mar-a-Lago. It confirms that it was organized at Mr. Trump's request. The organizer, George Horney, went on record. He said, I arranged to have some contestants fly in at the very first party. I said, who's coming tonight? I have 28 girls coming. It was him and Epstein. Do you see the connection? The deleted files claims there were calendar girl parties where booze happened. The New York Times confirms there were calendar girl parties where Trump and Epstein were the only men with 28 girls. The witness, George Harney, explicitly said he was surprised because he thought it was a VIP party, and it turned out to be just Trump and Epstein along with the girls. You cannot call this a conspiracy theory when the New York Times corroborated the setup 10 years ago. The infrastructure for the abuse was there. The calendar girl brand was real. The relationship was real, and that's why they deleted the file. Because they know that if you Google Trump calendar girls, you find the New York Times article, and once you make that connection, the whole house starts to fall. They're trying to sever the links between the official narrative and dark reality of what was happening behind closed doors at Mar-a-Lago. This is what they do. This is the playbook, actually. When the Access of Hollywood tape came out, they tried to bury it. When the Ukraine call happened, they hid the transcript on a secret server. And now, with the Epstein files, they're selectively deleting the evidence that implicates the president. Think about the timing. This comes out while the entire country is distracted. We have the government shut down, we have general strike, we have protests in the streets over the killing of Alex Preddy. They're counting on you being too exhausted to notice that the file was disappeared. They're counting on the media cycle moving too fast, but that's why we are here. That is why the independent media exists, because we don't have corporate overlords telling us to move on. We don't have access to protect. We cannot normalize the fact that Department of Justice is acting like Donald Trump's personal cleanup crew. They aren't working for you. They aren't just working for justice. They're working to protect one man from the consequences of own his history. I want to go back to the word auction. We talk a lot about corruption, we talk about bribes, we talk about politics, but this is just evil. I mean, if these allegations are true, and the deletion suggests that they're terrified that they might be, we're talking about the commodification of children. Rated the children, that is the language of a predator. That is the language of someone who views human beings as products. And look at who else is named on these files. The document mentions Elon Musk, it mentions Don Jr., it paints a picture of multi-generational ring of elites who thought they could do whatever they wanted because they had the money and the power to make it go away. For years they were right. They did make it go away. They silenced victims with NDAs. They silenced prosecutors with threats, but they couldn't silence the paper trail. And now that the paper trail is leaking out, they're using the blunt force of the federal government to try and scrub it. But here's the thing about the internet. You can't delete something once millions of people have seen it. You can't remove the PDF from the DOJ server, but you can't remove the screenshot from our phones. You can't remove the knowledge from our minds. They have actually made it worse for themselves. By deleting it, they have put giant spotlight on it. They have guaranteed that millions of people who would have never read file 679 are now going to read it because they want to know what was so bad that Trump had to hide it. This is actually the tip of the iceberg. Bad Bunny stood up at Grammys and called out ICE. The general strike is shutting down the economy, and now Calendar Girls file exposes the moral rot at the very top of this administration. They want you to give up, they want you to say, oh, it's too much, I can't do anything. But look at what is happening. They're panicking, they're just trying to delete the files. You don't threaten to sue comedians if you're secure. They're scrambling because the walls are closing in. The combination of protests, strikes, and the leaks are breaking them. Make sure you drop a like on this video and please subscribe because I can guarantee you I'll be here to make more news every day, every hour. Thank you so much.